What's up, my friend? What's happening with AI? How is the world changing?
What is going on with Bard and what is going on with these other tools, like ChatGPT. And I'm excited, but I'm also scared. A lot of the people that are used to doing things like we talked about Mechanical Turk, or even a lot of the VA kind of work on Fiverr where you're using Canva and whatnot, all can be done by the AI better, faster, and cheaper. Right now, you've seen auto GPTs, but there's something much more powerful that's coming after that.
Hello, people. How are you doing? I'm happy to be back with Dennis, and today we are just gonna catch up and chit chat about the future. The future is changing at a very it's changing at the speed it's changing, but we are just a little slow at catching up with it, I think. And I think in the last 6 months, the world has totally change for the people who understand it, and for the people who don't understand it, it's a very hard time for people to face. And we're just gonna chit chat about it. Today I'm with Dennis. Dennis is a good friend. We have traveled together and we know each other for almost, I don't know, a decade. And he is one of the very few Americans who have actually traveled with me for almost a month in Pakistan. And he has this desire to help 10 million people get jobs from around the planet using his background in technology. And he runs an organization called the Content Factory and doing amazing stuff. And he is a very empathetic guy. He's very genuine. He tries to do exactly what he's saying. He's not trying to fake up anything. And I'm saying all this after actually spending weeks with him traveling together. And you learn a lot about other person when you travel together. So thank you, Dennis. Lots of love. Thank you so much for joining in today. How
Rehan,
it
thank you.
looks so slim, my God, look at you. You look like you're like half person left.
I'll be even smaller next time I see you.
So what's the magic? What are you doing? I heard a very interesting way of exercising. What is that?
I'm at the trampoline park and I go there and I have my whoop and it tells me how many calories I burned. And I want to burn at least 2,000 calories every time I go. And as long as I eat less calories than I burn, then I'm losing weight. So I've lost almost 40 pounds and I'm having a great time today. I learned how to do a 360-degree dunk and also a dunk off the backboard in a game. So a lot of fun. You should come out, Rehan. I think you might like it.
That's the funnest exercise I've ever heard of. Like
Yeah.
trampoline park. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
With
like
basketballs. Yeah. Full
different
court
for
basketball.
what?
Yeah. It's crazy. So I feel like I can be Michael Jordan because I can bounce on the trampoline and do all kinds I can almost hit my head on the rim.
Trampoline basketball.
The whole court is a trampoline.
Amazing. Interesting. I have to Google it up. So, what's up, my friend? What's happening with AI? How is the world changing? And I saw a very interesting TED talk 2 days ago
Mm,
about the new world order, or the new superpower might not be what we think it is. It's going to be tech companies. And it's no longer going to be a country, but it's going to be companies, which is kind
mm,
of what has happened in the past
mhm,
through in the the United Kingdom was basically East India Company, which
mhm,
became the United Kingdom, and the company was more richer than the country itself. And before that, the world's biggest company most people don't know about was a tulip company from Holland, bigger than Apple, and they were just trading tulips all around the planet. And it would be $2 trillion company as of today's currency if it was alive today. So What's happening? What do you see happening in the future? Where is the future?
My next door neighbor is an executive at Google, and she's in charge of the AI, and she has 450,000 or not 450 engineers that report to her. And she's showing me what is going on with Bard and what is going on with these other tools, like ChatGPT. And I'm excited, but I'm also scared because I think about all the people that they're good people. They're willing to learn. They work hard, but they're not going to have a job in a few years. The Uber drivers, the supermarket people, the folks who work in the coal mine and whatnot, because a lot of the people that are used to doing things like we talked about Mechanical Turk, or even a lot of the VA kind of work on Fiverr where you're using Canva and whatnot, all can be done by the AI better, faster, and cheaper. I was in Chicago a couple weeks ago at Perry Marshall's Definitive Traffic Summit, and it was 3 days nonstop of the top leaders in AI. And they were saying the same thing, that it's going to happen faster than we think. And you've probably heard the phrase at first slowly, then suddenly, which is what's happening here. And I see AI tools pop up faster than I can possibly deal with. I like to consider myself someone who's very knowledgeable, but I cannot keep up every day. I mean, I'm curious how many tools you see every day, things that we've built software previously to do, or we've had virtual assistants do. The AI is able to do a better job. And for example, the content factory, being able to take an interview or a long form piece of video like this, you and I talking about Rehan, and chopping it up into different pieces and finding those right clips and turning them into tweets and Instagram reels and articles and posting them to the website and optimizing them for keywords. All of this chain of activities now can happen. Right now, you've seen auto GPTs, but there's something much more powerful that's coming after that. So I'm kind of worried, but also excited because I think we're going to have universal basic income much faster than we thought. And Sam Altman, of course, he's the CEO of the OpenAI Foundation, which runs ChatGPT. He even wrote an article, which I think is one of the best articles of last year, about the UBI of everything, where UBI will happen. Everyone's going to get free money, universal basic income, whether we like it or not, even though it's an entitlement. And it will be funded by the tech companies who will pay a 7% tax, started by the billion-dollar companies, and then gradually on down. And as much as I don't like it, it is unavoidable. And if you talk to the people who are many levels beyond where I am, they are saying it's unavoidable.
So how will the world look like? Because, we had kingdoms and we had now so-called democracy for the last 100 years. And now it's a new kind of system which will come, which the governance of the planet would be very different.
Yeah.
And yet still living in this imaginary world of boundaries and visas and passports and
Mm,
um, how would the world look like? I mean, we have been saying that the world's biggest country is now Facebook for a while,
mm,
but
mm,
most people don't really understand what it means because most people are still going through the school system, which is teaching them the nationalism of their country, and we're not taught to live as human beings or planetary citizens yet. And that will cause a lot of internal conflicts for a lot of people, for a lot of
yeah.
beliefs which people have. You travel a lot, I have traveled a lot. I see the world in a very different spectrum. But unfortunately, most people cannot. And when you try to tell them, it feels like the allegory of the cave story,
Mm.
which comes back when you try to tell them and they're like ready to kill you.
Yeah.
And
The,
you're
the
trying
light
to,
is too bright. They want to go back.
yeah. How do
I,
you see it feels a lot of control in the tech companies and like
yeah.
they can do whatever they want to do, and that sounds like a very different world was coming in.
One of my favorite books, and I think it was written in 1997. Someone can Google it or ask ChatGPT. It's called Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. And he talked about this future economy, which is basically almost where we are today, where the companies are more powerful than governments. Because you talked about borders and passports and whatnot. That's all being controlled by software. The governments are beholden to the software that actually operates. So whoever runs the data, whoever controls the databases, whoever has the access ultimately is in control. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I was in the Dallas airport a few days ago, and you've seen Amazon Go in the kiosks, right? Where you just go in there, scan your app, grab what you want, and the cameras detect what you want. You walk on, and it charges you. No need to talk to a cashier. This one now, you just wave your palm over the scanner thing, go in, and same thing. Grab whatever you like. It notices, even if you like look at it, but then you put it back because you didn't want it. It's smart, right? And I asked there was an Amazon person there kind of testing. I said, "This is the mark of the beast, isn't it?" And she kind of smiled. But this is what's going on because the access to goods and payments, cash is going to be outlawed. It has to be controlled by some systems. So it's going to have to be a combination of Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, these other kinds of companies. And Mark Andreessen has the famous quote that software is eating the world. Well, the new quote is AI is eating software. So ultimately, whoever can manufacture or control the software is going to control the world. And if it's going to be similar software, it doesn't matter what country you're from or what language you speak, we're all using that same software.
Well, coming in from a country of Pakistan, fifth largest economy, fifth largest population, no PayPal, and companies don't. I mean, you putting content on Facebook, you get paid for it, and
Yeah.
people in Pakistan putting content don't get paid for it. If we do hack it and we go around the world and get it monetized somehow, you get paid. For example, on YouTube, you get 1 million views. That's $10,000 for you.
Mm-hmm.
We get 1 million views, $100 for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens to the UBI then? What happens to the universal basic income that the company says, you know what, people on this part of the world, this longitude and latitude, don't get as much money, even though it's called universal basic
Mm-hmm.
income. I don't see how universal it can be. What do you think on that one?
It's universal and that everyone's going to get it. But certainly the cost of living in California versus Oklahoma is very different, versus Karachi is very different. So everyone's going to get enough income to be able to live at a normal standard in where they are for shelter and food and whatnot. But the thing about the borders and people in Pakistan not having PayPal or being paid less for the views or whatnot, actually, if someone in Pakistan can create value through PPC and they can demonstrate they can create an increase in leads and sales, then arbitrage through economics would dictate that they should be paid what they're worth because it creates an arbitrage opportunity, right? If somebody, maybe for creators it's different because a Pakistani audience is worth less from a monetization standpoint because the chicken and the egg where the advertisers are not worth as much, so there's less impetus, economic incentive to create the content. But who's to say? I mean, doesn't how many people need to be creators? Maybe like a couple percent of the economy. But if they're doing virtual assistant work, if they're helping with digital marketing, if they're doing things that don't require physically being there, then why wouldn't someone in Pakistan make just as much as someone in the United States if they're creating that same amount of value?
So, I understand where you're coming from, but we were talking offline on how you started using a computer when you were probably 8. When was the first time you had your computer?
Probably, yeah, 8 or 10, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, third grade, so 10. Yeah.
I was 12 when I got mine, but the majority of the world in my country, in India, in Africa, in countries, they didn't get access to a computer or a smartphone till a few years ago. COVID
Yeah.
basically brought in a lot of smartphone, and that basically, Sir Ken Robinson calls this the first language. Our
Mhm.
first language is typing.
Mm.
Then the kids today are also like this way, but the majority of the world, say if they're like 25, they're getting their first smartphone. Their learning curve is big.
Mhm.
And if you started at 8, you watched Star Trek. There's a whole planet
Mm.
in this planet which has never watched Star Trek. And I think watching Star Trek is a fundamental training of the mind of how to think, how the world might look like, how interplanetary or interracial species should act and react. And when I watched the Star Trek Next Generation last time, I saw it from the point of leadership. For me,
Mm.
I was watching it to learn how leadership should work and how it is according to him, but there was a
Mm.
lot of stuff which I could learn from. I mean, the
Mhm.
leadership I was actually learning from Star Trek,
Mm.
where
Mm.
you might look like this or you might look like this, and
Mm.
you still have to be dealt equally.
Mm.
Um, uh, there's a whole like I constantly use the phrase in Pakistan, "Khama khayega ghareeb." Khama khayega ghareeb means poor for no reason. It's just they're just not navigating their way through the wealth which is sitting right there inside their computer, and they just don't even know how to navigate through just because they've never done it before, and it's not their mistake or fault,
Mm.
but it's there.
Mm.
Having said that, I wish I had a magic lamp and I would spend a few $1 billion on, instead of trying to um, build more schools, I would literally close them and just educate the people on just like we did in the COVID times, to go forward with the IT, with the tech, with the
Yeah.
getting a computer in their hand, and getting everything on ChatGPT, proximity, and
Mm.
just let them Google, YouTube, Google, I mean ChatGPT, proximity, do it like that, and we can leapfrog, and just not
Yeah.
us, all humanity needs it because
Mm.
coming, it's here.
Mm.
And it's like if we are illiterate technologically, we're just behind for absolutely no reason, and we can't arbitrage the distance you're trying to help and I'm trying to help them arbitrage, because they're
Yeah.
stuck in micro problems which you see every day and I see every
Mm.
day, can't even
Mm.
see.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Very, very frustrating. You know better than me because you are better connected in Pakistan and you have your 14 million followers and your connections in the government and other leaders. But my view is is not that we need more technology education. I mean, yes, learn GPT, learn Google, learn all these different tools. But I think fundamentally in Pakistan and in other countries that are developing, the ability to have active listening, to develop EQ, right, an emotional quotient, to be able to build relationships, to communicate in an effective way is more important than technology, which changes all the time. I coach a bunch of young adults that are teenagers, and I've been on this planet 2.5 times longer than they have been alive. And yet, their ability to build relationships and to be open to learning, their brain plasticity is so high that it's almost like the 35 years that I've been working on computers is a disadvantage because whatever's happened in the initial first 30 years doesn't really matter because you can now just speak what you want. Sam Altman said that the programming language of the future, which is 2023, is English. And being able to think critically, being able to build relationships, I think is more important than programming, which just rapidly decays faster and faster. And I think building, being able to communicate and being able to have an intelligent discussion is something that I consider when I spent time with you in Pakistan, I was craving that. And I felt that the leaders that you introduced me to definitely had that. But I felt that others, it was almost barbaric in a way. And it wasn't because they were poor. It wasn't because, in my opinion, they didn't have the technology, but they never learned how to communicate or how to ask questions or how to listen or how to respond empathetically. I feel like if you learn that, the technology part doesn't even matter so much because you'll just learn whatever tool you need to learn at the time.
Yeah, I think I will disagree respectively, because I understand that but I personally feel that if because you were not able to communicate in Urdu, you did not see what I see, that they're really, really good at physical interaction and
mm,
communication. If you meet the right people, and majority of them, if you meet them on a personal level, physically, they're phenomenal at communicating. The
mm,
challenge is they're pathetic on the internet level. They're like they have to meet for coffee. They have
mm,
to meet for physically. They have to meet physically because
yeah,
that's how they were taught to communicate. They are amazing active listeners. Majority of them are, but when it comes to tech, it's and the newer generation, they just don't know how to do it. And it's I think it's the tech part which is broken. And since you and I are interacting more on the tech part, it's
mm,
very frustrating because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to listen online.
mm,
I every time I send a message to someone, everybody time they say hello, I
mm,
have three text messages in my phone. I send them,
mm,
please introduce yourself in 2 lines.
mhm,
And some of them will just write their name and their city name, and some of them will send me like a 10-page introduction.
mm,
And it's just very few people are actually being able to compose the 2-line introduction. And I was one of them. I did not know how to introduce myself, even
mm,
physically. So yes, I totally agree that it's important. It's the most important skill to actually be able to listen and communicate. However, I think that the it allows people because they're asking, even if they're doing the conversation is not productive. The
mm,
connections are unproductive. They are taught to make a connection
mm,
based on what they get out of it.
mm. Very
And
transactional.
very transactional. However, as a guest, it's not transactional at all. But in the business etiquettes, it's very transactional. It's like they start
Yeah.
thinking if they're a doctor, they will only transact with a or communicate with a doctor. If they're an engineer,
Mm,
they want to just communicate with an engineer. They're stuck in their box, whereas the boxes are gone.
mm,
And they don't realize it that the boxes are gone, and they need to be able to communicate with different fields in order to actually build something.
mm,
A fantastic podcast and work going on with Salim Ismail, Peter Diamandis, and if you watch those podcasts, that how do you build $1 billion company with 3 people?
mm,
And it's really, really fascinating. And it's really basically the same thing which they've been saying for a long time, but it's more concise and precise on how to create impact with just AI. And that's why I mean, when I spent 5 months listening to AI stuff for 12 hours a day, and I'm like, I can't handle it anymore. It's just,
mm,
whatever is going to come is going to come. I hired 8 people who are just doing the same now and trying to give me a 8-minute video every day, like 1 minute each, so that I can see what's actually going on.
yeah.
But one of the thing which I like what Sam did and OpenAI did was release the genie out of the bottle and put ChatGPT out there so people can actually start using it, and then they can see what it can do, and then this whole phenomena has just started off. It's just
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
And because we're not even using ChatGPT type of stuff. Like my um, somebody yesterday was asking, they got elected by the union council, and what should they do? What should they be doing? I said, why don't you just chat GPT it?
Yeah.
It's just gonna give you a fantastic thing. Oh, it'll answer us. So it's not coming naturally yet. So
Mm,
when you say we can just speak to the phone, we can't speak to the phone. First of all, it doesn't speak our language properly.
mm,
Second, it does not, when you come from an American, again, the thing with the tech friendliness, we're just not even friends with our technology yet. And that's where the majority is. And that's what hurts me, thinking that these people are just going to left behind. They're just for absolutely no ridiculous reason except that they were just late. They just lost the train because they're just late. They just woke up late. And we're still not awake. We're just fighting between politics, even everywhere on the planet. But it just, this is something which is like ABCD now. If you can't use your phone properly, then you can't you can't read anything, which means that you're just you might be a phenomenal human being, but you can't
Mm.
read. You can't read the book you just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, the impetus to learn English, right? Because right now, the Western clients are the ones that have the money, and that's the easiest way to do business, right?
Today
Until
there was
there's
a
more
video.
Pakistani businesses.
Today there was a video of a parliamentarian saying that I'm not going to speak Urdu. I'm going to speak Pashto
Mm,
because I don't understand English, and you made it the national language. So if I can't do everything in Urdu, then I'm not even going to, instead of learning English, instead of going, he said, I'm going to go even backward. And that's what will happen if we look at the if you look at the history of humanity. The leaders who can't push forward take people backward. So, for
mm,
example, our last leader took us to 500, 400-year-old history. He has become the most legendary person in Pakistan. His called name is Ertugrul Ghazi, and he is the father of the Ottoman Empire. And 5% of the story is, it's 70 hours of content on Netflix. You can watch
mm,
it. And out of that, I think 5% might be truth, and everything else is a drama around that truth. And people are fanatics about it. They want that time to come back. Erdogan did the same in Turkey.
mm,
So instead of dubbing Star Trek, we went and dubbed a content which was taking us backward, because going backward brings us glory, and bringing you to the future makes you work harder. Like you're saying, we should learn English because that's
mm,
where the money is. That's where we
mm.
should learn. Instead of learning towards that, we're like, no, we should go backward. We should go where the glorious time was. That's how we won the glory. But they don't realize that the game has changed, the rules have changed. Sorry
Well,
to
whoever
interrupt.
invents the technology gets to say the rules, like we talked about offline. For example, the aviation system, modern flight was invented in America. And so, all pilots, no matter where they are, they have to speak English.
True.
Doesn't matter. You could be a Korean pilot, you could be in India, you could be in South America, you know, speaking Portuguese. But if two pilots are speaking different languages, then they can't communicate. So everyone who's a pilot has to speak English. And the internet was created in America using English. So the whole Aaron system of domain names is based in English, which I think is interesting. I was born in America, so I just naturally assumed that that was going to be the case. But what if we have Pakistan is only slightly smaller than America in population. What if there's some amazing, as we've met some of these amazing entrepreneurs, and they invent some new technology, and that then requires everyone else to adapt to whoever created the technology, right?
I think the ecosystem is now in English. You can't really, it's like creating a new oxygen
It's too
to live
late.
on. It's too late to actually fight on the language. I don't know if you know of this guy, Jack Fresco. Jack Fresco is an amazing guy. You should definitely look him up. He is a very old futurist who recently died. He was 102.
Mm,
And he there's a video of it. Like, why are we even fighting on language? It's just air coming out of your lungs. It's not even worth fighting for.
mm,
But
mm.
we have this nostalgia and this attachment to the language, where we just are unable to let go of it. And because it's so hard to learn, it's a new language. And anyways, we're going into, it's a frustrating challenge to work with a country which doesn't really understand how to move forward. And then I feel like if you're playing a game, it's like 10 seconds left, and
Mm,
there's so much left to do. In order to, you know how to win the game, but it's only 10 seconds left. It's like,
mm,
Chat GPT 6, what
mm,
happens there when everybody has a hands on that? Or
mm.
if Bard is really, I mean, something new just shows up, from Hugging Face. Who knows what
Mm.
the new thing will just show up next?
Mhm. Yeah, or Apple Vision, where you don't even have to know another language, it's all translated for you.
Yeah. Actually, I heard that yesterday I was watching this week's content on AI release. There's a video language. I didn't even understand what that means. There was a GPT for video language by Facebook, which is released in open source. I was like, what is this? It's like some jargon, but I would love to understand it more, but it's just something new.
Well, maybe it'll be like, Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom, a book by Cory Doctorow that talks about what it's gonna be like with UBI, where no currency is
Sound?
necessary because everything is free, and we just think. Imagine all we have to do is just think, and, it could be Elon Musk with the Neuralink, and we can communicate with other people, kind of like without the barbarianness of, the low baud rate of having to speak words orally, right? To think so much faster. I mean, that is now a reality. That is now being done. Transmitting thoughts by just thinking them.
Yeah. How would the world look like in your mind in 5 years or 3 years even?
I think that change happens in the short time frame very small. I think that a lot of the friction in digital marketing is going to go away because that's the easiest thing. Just like when the internet first came, almost 30 years ago, the initial pieces were all around reducing the easiest friction to eliminate, which is like the yellow pages and brochures and, travel agents. And then it moved to things like eventually B2B transactions or things that required physical transactions like an Uber or, making food for somebody. And I think the same is going to be true for AI. The easiest things are going to be image recognition and sorting feeds and creating content, creating whatever your favorite movie is, creating 100 more just like the same thing with those same actors, right? Because the AI can do that. But I think in 10 years from now, we're going to have things that we could never have imagined because it will extend to production. So right now, the creation of content, the whole idea of like a chat GPT or a video GPT or a Dennis or Rehan GPT is kind of a novelty because it's just making words at you. But I would think in 5 to 10 years that it will go from words to action, and the each of us will have a personal AI that will take actions on our behalf because it knows what we like. It knows, for example, that I like Cheetos. It knows the kinds of things that I like to do, and it will just negotiate for me, and it will negotiate with the bots or whatever intelligent agents that are from these other companies and from other people. So all of us, whoever wins, it's going to be, if Rihan, you have a smarter set of intelligent agents protecting you, like butlers, basically, to go out and do your bidding and manage your companies versus me. I have to build my set of intelligent agents. So it's really just bots fighting bots. I think that's where we're going to be. And the marketplace is going to be upgrades for your bots. And eventually, maybe in 10, 15 years, upgrades for your brain, more storage, more memory. Just like the new iPhone that comes out every year, which I buy, I think there's going to be upgrades for your brain. And initially, people will resist. But at some point, you want to be left behind, or do you want to have a perfect memory and remember everything about a friend when they come up to you and it's you Terminator view, you see their name, you see all this information, and you just seem superhuman intelligent? I think people will go for that, and it'll be very attractive, and it'll be trickled to us because we see that our pets are being microchipped. We see that rich people and celebrities are waving their hand and being able to, think something like Minority Report and have all these things materialize. You can just think the food that you want, and it will be manufactured and delivered to you. And if celebrities are doing that, then everyone else is going to want to have that. But I think when the celebrities are telling everybody this is what's cool, why wouldn't everyone else want to do the same thing?
So where is intelligence? I mean, you can just download something. I can just download 10,000 books in me, and then just
You already
I'm
have that. It's in the palm of your hand. It's Google. Does that make you more intelligent just because you have a search engine? Just because you have a calculator, does that now make you a math genius?
the throughput is very slow. Well, if I had Neuralink, I could just download the book. It's like in the
In the
uh,
Matrix, now you can
in
fly the helicopter.
yeah. So why don't I just download everything?
But that's not intelligence, that's storage. Intelligence is the processing of information, not just the collection. A big library inside your head doesn't make you more intelligent. It just makes you can just answer more questions, right?
Can't I download intelligence of Einstein or something?
Intelligence is being able to see patterns, is being able to compute, is being able to reason, it's doing analysis. Right. I don't think, and just like Sam Altman and these other guys said, with these GPT models that are moving from 1 trillion pieces to 10 trillion pieces of information, just because they can move to 100 trillion doesn't mean that they are smarter or more intelligent. They just have more. There's kind of an asymptote. There's this fake thing where people thought, well, if the GPT-5 has 100 times more data, it's going to be more intelligent. It's not, because intelligence is limited by processing, not by storage, basically, right? RAM versus, how many
Processing.
megabytes in the hard drive.
Right. I think nobody really knows what will happen. It's so weird that they don't even know how the GPT thing works. I mean, they do kind of, and they don't kind of know what is coming out. This is kind of scary. We don't know how the quantum computer works, and it's still working.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah.
weird that we're actually going to start touching stuff which we don't really understand, and that's a dangerous stuff.
Yeah. Biology too, same thing. In every area, there's all of these new risky second and third order effects. We know the first order effects of stem cells and how that's helping a lot of people heal, but the second order effects, where things can spread and it creates this superhuman capability,
Mm,
people are going to want to pay for that on the black market. Just like AI, if I have an advantage, I'm going to want to pay for that.
mm. So, what's your advice after spending 2 years on Facebook with a couple of 100,000 people from Pakistan and talking to them and meeting them? What's your suggestion and advice to them? Ta-da-da-da-da, to
If you're in
them.
Pakistan, you are not really at the disadvantage that you think you might be in. You might think that other Americans are all millionaires and have this unfair advantage, but you have access to the internet. You have access to connect with Rehan and me. You have access to use ChatGPT to say, hey, you're Dennis Yu. We're going to have a conversation and I'm going to ask you these questions and you're going to mentor me. And that mentoring is actually better than if I were to actually mentor you, because the AI knows every article I've ever written, thousands of videos and whatnot. It's watched and seen all of them and assimilated them. So, like we talked about before, Rehan, before we decided we should turn this into a StreamYard, that the limiting factor is internally imposed. It's a mental barrier. It is not because you're on the other side of the planet. Yes, because I'm here in the US, I have easier access to physically meet these other people. But I'm learning by engaging with these people online, and then I want to meet them in person, right? The way Rehan and I connected was online, and then we met in person. So you can connect with anyone on the planet. It's amazing. Even still today, it amazes me that we can connect with anyone. You can follow anyone on Twitter. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. And if you add value and you learn active listening, you can do amazing things, bigger and better than anything I've ever done.
And why, in your analysis, why are they not doing it?
They are just unaware. They've not learned how to communicate. A lot of people are looking for the easy shortcut. I was with Sunny Ali. Thank you for introducing me. And we were at one of his campuses, I think in Karachi. And he said, because I complained, because he said something like, what is your biggest observation or complaint about, Pakistanis? And I said something like, I get inundated with thousands of messages. Hire me, please, sir, kindly, need job. I am very poor. Hire me. Very transactional, just asking me for handouts instead of, hey, Dennis, I saw you with Rehan in Lahore the other day, and I had a question about something that you made a live video with Rehan, and I had a question about whatever it was. I would love to answer that question because it shows thought, it shows empathy, it's active listening, right? Or they could say, I saw that you and Rehan, you were in Silicon Valley, and you were at a conference with a bunch of people in big tech, and I would love to, maybe just say something like, hey, is there any way I can create value for you? Right? Those are the kinds of things I would expect to hear. And I told Sunny Ali in front of all his people there, I said, but that's not what I'm seeing. I see Pakistanis as, they're good, hardworking people. They want to provide a better living for their family. All those things, those are fantastic. But to your point, Rehan, they have not learned how to communicate. It's almost like the selfie thing, right, Rehan? Every time we've gone to a conference, you especially get mobbed by hundreds and hundreds of these people all wanting to take selfies. It's almost rude, but I know they don't mean to be rude. They just are completely unaware. Hey, you have to personalize. You have to provide value before you just ask instead of, kindly sir, please hire me, right? And was it with the Azad Chaiwala? We were in the car and we said, this is the thing that is holding back Pakistan. That very thing, right? You pulled out your cell phone and you recorded the video as you famously do.
So to me, I agree. It's awareness. They're not even aware of what they're not aware of, and that's what I said. If I had a magic lamp, I would aware them of basic technology, which will lead into more advanced technology and learning to listen. And this, I think, comes from it's like driving. You just got a
Yeah.
new car and you got a Porsche, but you're going to drive fast without understanding that it's going to hurt you if and you get into a first small accident and then you're more careful. And that's it's how humans learn by making mistakes, I think, and that's it needs to be done more. More transactions need to happen on a global scale so they can actually make those mistakes quickly, fail quickly, and learn quickly, and try to get the wisdom out of it. As you said, that's what intelligence is. I'm very happy that you opted in for this journey. We're going to try and hire a bunch of more people to help you and other people like you who want to help and educate and hire more people.
Mm.
We want to get 100 million jobs. And we will try to facilitate anyone who wants to create job. I understand it's very hard to deal with these people. It's very challenging, and that's my this year's or maybe a couple of years challenge to try to I understand my family is disabled, but I need to figure out ways for them to be more abled. They might not all be the guy who invented the black hole who couldn't speak. What's his name?
Or like a
Um,
Stephen Hawking kind of person.
Stephen Hawking person.
He's
Uh,
disabled, but in a different way. I mean, he passed away, I think, semi recently.
yeah, and he couldn't speak, but he had the brain,
Yeah.
and he couldn't communicate, and he managed to find a way, and that's kind of my thing, which is which I want to figure out, that I understand that these people are not the best communicator, they're not fantastic in English. What can be our Toyota? What can be our Samsung? What can be our hack to
Mhm.
or breakthrough to help them go through this transaction or go through this period of time? And if
Yeah.
there is a future for everyone,
Mm.
how can we and others empower themselves using this amazing, powerful technology which we have to allow us to be
Yeah.
next to each other without being next to each other?
Yeah. Well, I'm biased, but I think processing content for entrepreneurs is something that our friends in Pakistan can learn how to do that's very valuable that the AI tools don't know how to do yet. Because the I was at this conference in Denver 2 days ago, and these founders, they're producing 1-minute videos, they have the YouTube channel, they're on Instagram, TikTok, they're doing all this kind of stuff, but that content still needs editing. It still needs to be posted. It still needs to be turned into articles. And AI doesn't do these things. And this is a great way to be able to build relationships with depending on what the numbers you look at, 15 million, 20 million small business owners in America. And then you add in Canada and Europe and whatnot. These people all need help. And this is a very valuable service. So it helps you learn how to communicate at the same time. I think this is something that has a window. It could be completely wrong, but I think it's a few years to learn how to do this. Because if I was in Pakistan and I didn't have any money and I didn't have any connections, I would figure out a way that I could make myself very valuable with very little training. Even if not everyone's going to be a billionaire rocket scientist or whatnot. I think most people, like you said, in Pakistan, they just want to make a couple $100 a month and be able to live a better life and provide for their family. What's wrong with that?
So I would be happy. I can do. We started teaching micro videos recently in our incubator. It's only the first batch. I think by the second and third batch, we will be more mature, exactly knowing what we're doing
Yeah.
and creating the systems to train.
Yeah.
And we can start producing the right people for you. I was happy to see Blondie at our place.
Blondie's fantastic. And Blondie has been inviting people to his own house and training them.
Well, he
If we could
can.
get another 1,000 Blondies, that would be like a miracle.
It took me a year to make him. It doesn't work overnight. It takes time, and we had to pay him for the year just to learn,
Yeah.
and he was very hard nut to crack. But I think that was the first machine. We need diamonds to cut diamonds. So
First one's
I'm
the
in the
hardest.
phase, huh?
Yeah, the first one's the hardest, but it should get easier and easier as we figure out the patterns, right? And then the ones that we built up, we'll train the other ones.
So if you can kindly force him to be at our place and start a course there,
Mm.
uh, instead of getting them to his house, which
Hmm.
is I don't know where, it will be definitely much more comfortable and scalable when
Yeah.
he is at the incubator.
Yeah.
It's more organized space.
Yeah.
There's another gentleman. I don't know if you're in touch with him. He's here. He's Mudassir. He
Oh,
makes
Mandasser. Yeah, I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so he makes good content, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to force him to start educating on that. He's a fantastic trainer.
Yeah.
If he can scale and you can train him to create content as you need it, and then he can
Yeah.
then train future blondies because
Hmm.
it's very intense work to train these guys. It's like
It is.
cramping 4 years of work into like a few months.
Yeah.
Belief and technical training and
Hmm.
lots of good stuff.
Hmm.
So I think then he can help 1,000 people do
Hmm.
that. So I hope Mudassir you can get in
Yeah.
touch with him and do stuff. We are also trying to we're getting short on cash on our foundation, so I don't ask for money for anyone. So, but I'm looking for making $250,000 a year more through businesses. So if you have anything we can do for you or build something which can become something like that, that'll be wonderful for us.
Very simple. Edit 1 minute videos according to our standard, and it's on the internet. Ali has actually put together the training on how to do that. So anyone who wants to go through that training and qualify, we can just say all the profit that comes from that can go to the foundation. And the group you created, Rehan, it has almost 42,000 people in it. That Facebook group, Digital Marketing with Dennis Yu. Let's take that to 100,000 people. More people, and just we'll create more opportunity, more momentum, and more people can train. I would recommend, just like you said, Rehan, where you created this group, everyone should join that group to learn about processing content, to learn how to talk to American business owners, to learn how to do SEO, to learn how to use all these different tools. We have so much training in
If he can train, I'll give him a call, ask him what's the problem, and let's create more
there.
people. But
Yeah.
if you can force him is the right word which I can use
Mm.
to train more people because he
Yeah.
works for you.
Yeah.
That would allow he can train 4 people for us, and then we can
Yeah.
train more people through
Yeah.
them, and then we can pay them to be trained because I have found that because they are hand to mouth, it's difficult for
Mm.
them to
Mm.
learn just to learn.
Yeah.
We have to kind of pay them to get them up and running.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on your mind?
So one of my friends is a billionaire. His name is Naveen Jain, And people ask him all the time, how do you make $1 billion? Because he has multiple companies that are multi-billion dollars. And he also has some foundations, kind of like you have. And one of the things he told me when we had dinner, he said that he does not believe in the traditional nonprofit model. He believes that you should solve a really big problem. You know, if you want to be a billionaire, solve $100 billion problem. If you want to be a millionaire, solve $100 million problem. And he said, if you have a world changing vision like you and I have, Rehan, then find an economic vehicle where people are buying our products, and that it, by nature of buying our products, which can be the natural resource of Pakistan, you said that's the number one resource, then that in itself is the best advocacy we could ever have for the Pakistani people, is to have them trained up. And instead of us having to lose millions of, you and I have both lost millions of dollars doing this education, right, over many, many years. But why not? It doesn't cost us money to have this Facebook group or to have these different courses, which we've opened up to people in Pakistan for people to qualify. And those who are willing to put in the time and learn to show that they're diligent and serious, then they're worth the investment to be able to have like an Ali Blondie mentor them, right? But we're not just going to answer every single question they have so they never have to look at any of the training. All we're actually hurting them by being, giving them handouts instead of giving them the opportunity to study what's there, to take some steps and show some initiative, and then show that they are worth investing in, right? The thing is, even with our group of 41,500, there's not many people that are willing to put in much initiative. Maybe some people will make their 1 minute videos, but I see a lot of people, they come to the group and they're looking for instant income. And maybe that's because it's hand to mouth and, they need the money right now. But there has to be a way beyond just giving them laptops and giving them money before they have to do anything, so that they can show something. Because the welfare is, that's like, if I was in that situation, I would not want to just be given all of these things for free. I would want to earn it, right? Even if it wasn't very much, even if, like you said, Amazon Turk, I'm only making 5 cents or something per task. At least it's a starting point.
You're right. I I I wish you would set up another Amazon Turk, and I wish somebody would set up another Amazon Turk. The reason I say somebody else is because I, it's not just the technology part; it's the management of the tech
Yeah.
part, and it's very challenging work. But I think that's going to be a uh, good few $1,000s a month business for anyone who starts it. I will be very happy to co-found it if somebody
Mm.
wants to do it, because I think by having something like an Amazon Turk copy, which is so easy to do.
Mm.
Um, Here we have Mr. Iqbal, who um, claimed that he will make one, but he didn't, like everybody else. And I think the reason it needs to be there is because there's an incentive, there's instant
Mm-hmm.
money to be
Yeah.
made, 10 cents, $1 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if people could just earn their first dollar, it just helps them more learn confidence that allows them to earn the next $10 and the $100.
I agree.
So I hope somebody does that. Thank you for your time today, Dennis. You rock as
Thank you,
usual.
Rihan. Yeah.
Enjoy the next Netflix. I hope to see you soon and
I
jump.
absolutely, I admire everything that you're doing. Few people that are so successful are willing to be so selfless and so humble and care for the people who don't have very much. So that is super, super rare, and I'm super appreciative of you. And I can't wait to see you wherever you are in the world, hopefully in a couple weeks, something like that.
Yeah, and you asked me a question, and you asked rightly said that you want to repeat that, that people wonder why we work with the people at the bottom
Yeah.
of the pyramid instead of the top.
Yeah.
Do you want to repeat the question?
So a lot of my very successful friends have said, Dennis, why don't you just hire the very best? You can. You can hire the best engineers that you worked with. And financially, that would make a lot of sense. Yet, Dennis, I see you spending time in Pakistan. I see you mentoring young adults that have no experience. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any kind of sense. And then you provided your answer, Rihan.
Uh, well, I think if a friend of mine, you haven't met him yet. Oh, you did met him, Munawar Ibadullah in Dubai. and
Oh,
I
he's
asked
amazing. Yeah.
I asked him to put a number on my worth. If I instead of doing what I did, I worked same hours to build my business. He said your number would be at least $5 billion. So yes, I could earn $5 billion, but then what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Um, I think the impact, which it's much easier to work with people who are richer, who have a certain qualification, who have certain place already. It's much easier to sell them. It's much easier to make money with them. It's much easier. It's much rewarding to hang out with them
Yeah.
because you learn so much just to hang out with them. I was just the other day hanging out with this billionaire guy who has 12 employees and does a few $100 million a year. Amazing space, amazing place, amazing lifestyle, but end of the day he's just impacting. Well, he is still impacting, but the point here is I somebody needs to make a nursery school
Mm.
for the people to become the billionaires. And I think I am that person that have been forced into doing that. It's not something I chose to do. It just happened. It's my life's space. I was kind of forced into it. I constantly say that nature, God, whoever put me in this position to become this person. And it's very rewarding sometimes, it's very unrewarding sometimes,
Mm.
and it's very painful to sometimes, but it is what it is. So I think somebody needed to do it, and I'm doing it, and it's okay. I
Yeah.
don't need to make a few $1 billion.
Yeah. So proud
Thank
of you,
you.
Rihan.
Thank you. I'm so proud of you too, Dennis. Thank you for doing what you're doing. We will, if you can put somebody to advertise your group through your Facebook page in
Hmm.
Pakistan and put
Hmm.
like $100 a month on it, it'll get at least 100,000 view in people in 3 months maximum.
Inshallah, for real.
Yeah. It take advantage of the low cost of Facebook advertising in Pakistan for sure.
Yeah.
I tell everyone that if you want to make a million users in the US, you need at least 10 to $50 million.
Hmm.
You want to make a million users in Pakistan, 50,000 to $100,000 easy. Just put it on
Yeah.
Facebook and people will
Yeah.
just download it, and you'll have a million test users. And that's something which I want to do when I'm in the US, is to try to pitch more people. I was doing this whole month in Europe,
Mm.
that people should just promote their product not in their own country but in Pakistan, because it gets you more views and more users very quickly.
Mm.
And you can test your products in Pakistan. It's an amazing testing ground, and it helps the country because the more transaction, the more apps they will try, the more geeky they will become, like you and I, and they wouldn't
Mm.
really need to. They will then start inventing things,
Yeah.
but they have to try things before they actually invent things. They haven't tried enough things, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
I agree. It's the awareness and exposure. It's why we travel, for example, to
Yeah,
learn about the things we didn't even know.
true. All right, Dennis, thank you again for the time. We should do this more often.
We do anytime, Rihan. You know, I'm super busy and all this, but I will make time to spend time with you.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Take
Thanks,
care.
Rihan.